The second component for election integrity is you got to be in the room. We announced when Laura Trump and I took over at the RNC 4 months ago that we were going to recruit over 100,000 volunteers into our national program, our Protect the Vote program. Happy to say that we've already got 157,000 volunteers who've registered for that program. We're going to continue to push for the next 87 days to make sure that we have the biggest, most robust national election integrity program in the history of the country.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, that was RNC Chair Michael Whatley saying that they have recruited over 157,000 poll workers and poll watchers. Earlier this year, we saw Laura Trump saying that they want people who were there ready to hit things. So how much harm can these poll workers cause?
Okay, so first of all, there is no chance that they have 157,000 poll workers. I mean, like they know that their audience, right, which is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump loves making up numbers. I mean, I'm sure you must have covered extensively the ridiculous numbers he has made up about his rallies. And so I am sure this 157,000 number is made up to please the boss, but it does not reflect anything approaching reality. But that said, there is no question they are recruiting people to go into polling locations around the country and to cause problems, right? Like they're not there to watch democracy and celebrate it. They are not there to merely be observers and, regardless of how people vote, to celebrate the peaceful transfer of power and the longest continuous constitutional democracy in the country. They are there to disrupt. They are there to intimidate. They are there to spread lies, to create fodder for misinformation. And so, yeah, we should be worried about it because everything that Donald Trump wants out of the RNC is about disrupting the voting process. You know, how many times, Brian, has he said he doesn't care if people vote or you don't have to bother with voting? He wants to disrupt.
Are you saying that you don't believe him when he says 100,000 people came to see him in an arena with a 10,000 person capacity?
It's hard to imagine, right? I mean, the only thing better than watching him lose his mind when his crowds are small is watching him lose his mind now that Kamala Harris's crowds are enormous. I mean, it is just, I mean, I expect the absolute worst from Donald Trump, the craziest from Donald Trump. I wasn't even surprised that he had like rotting meat out in the sun at his last press conference between Cheerios, box of Cheerios. But even I didn't have the event was AI, right? The crowds was AI on my crazy bingo card.
Yeah, that is a good call. Fooled me, even as I was live streaming it in real time. Who could have possibly?
Wait, you were live streaming the AI?
I was live streaming the AI. It's part of this whole part of this whole cabal that we're putting together. Much. Apparently, it's easier to put together an entire AI rally with 15,000 fake people showing footage and audio and video from the rally than it is just to get 15,000 people there to see the next president of the United States. But you know, it's a deep rabbit hole that Donald Trump is involved with right now. Mark, what could a poll worker who believes in Donald Trump's election denialism and other conspiracy theories actually do to disrupt or subvert our elections?
Yeah, so look, I think there are two things that we have to be particularly worried about. The first is that, Republicans have sued before and are suing now to have these poll watchers actually be poll challengers, right? Like they're not there to watch, they're there to interact with voters, to challenge their right to vote, to peer over their shoulder and see how they vote, right? Like, so their first goal here is to get them in the room. The second goal is to have them interact with voters and otherwise cause problems. So that's the first thing we have to worry about. The second is that these are individuals who are going to come outside the polls and spread lies. I mean, we just know that, right? They spread lies about the vote counting after 2020 in Michigan and in Philadelphia. They spread lies constantly in Arizona about the vote counting. So they will spread lies about what is happening in polling locations, and that can have a very deeply corrosive effect on trust in elections and on our democracy. So we need to worry about all of that.
Right. Well, I think it's important now that we talk about this in advance of that actually happening, because if people know, if we are primed to understand that that's the misinformation and disinformation that's going to be spread by Republicans, if we let them know now, then when they inevitably do it in November, it's going to fall flat because we're aware that that's the cudgel that they're going to wield against Democrats.
Yeah, and I want to take a chance here to point out that if you all haven't already, you need to go out and buy Brian's book, Shameless, because it talks about just how shameless the Republicans will be. And so I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, this is exactly what they are planning. And it's like I said, your book is very much about how terrible the Republicans can be about this and how their shameless behavior in these kinds of arenas can be really corrosive to democracy.
Well, I appreciate that. For those watching who want to grab a copy, I'll put the link right here on the screen, and you can go ahead and order it. And thank you in advance for doing so. Mark, do you think that we should be taking these claims and these threats of potential violence from Republicans more seriously? Like they'll always point to Democrats' hysteria to try and diffuse attention away by saying that the left is just being alarmist.
Yeah, look, the biggest mistake that I think many made and the mainstream media continues to make in many quarters is believing that you should take Donald Trump seriously, but not literally. I think what we've learned is you have to take him both seriously and literally. When Donald Trump says that he wants to be a dictator, he wants to be a dictator. When Donald Trump says that that people don't have to vote, the RNC doesn't have to worry about get out the vote, they just have to worry about these kinds of programs, take that seriously. I mean, the fact is, in 2020, we were greeted by a whole lot of people who said he just needs time to grieve, he just needs time to accept the election results, don't worry, it'll all be fine. And the next thing you know, not only did we have frivolous lawsuits that my law firm and I beat back, but we also then had a violent insurrection in the nation's capital that involved storming and physical violence towards police, and will be one of the most scarring experiences in our democracy for decades to come.
I think he's under this impression, and this is a long-standing pattern with Donald Trump, that if he is seeking to do something illegal or unconstitutional or anti-democratic, that if he says it in broad daylight, that'll somehow undermine the illegality of it or the optics of illegality. And so he'll say these things during the day so that everybody can see, so that it doesn't feel as illegal as if we caught him saying it on some hot mic somewhere, for example.
Yeah, look, and I think that if we wind up with a constitutional crisis, it is going to be as much because so many people who are well-meaning in the media have normalized exactly that. I mean, the fact is that Donald Trump is clearly suffering from cognitive decline, and he is not fit to be president of the United States. And that is obvious to everyone. But yet, the media that spent weeks and weeks talking about President Biden and his debate, sort of treat the fact that Donald Trump is in this decline as kind of like an afterthought not to worry about. Donald Trump is constantly disparaging our military, our global alliances, and the media kind of like treats it like don't pay any attention to it. Donald Trump is constantly bad-mouthing democracy. He again just said the other day that there shouldn't be early voting. Well, how much press did the RNC get for a website saying, oh, look, Donald Trump believes in early voting? Donald Trump was on tape a couple of days ago saying, early voting is a sham. Everyone should have to vote on election day. So I really hope that as much as the listeners and the viewers of this video wake up, I really hope that the responsible media wakes up as well and follows your lead in really sounding this alarm.
A group of Senate Democrats did send a letter to the Department of Justice this past week urging the agency to take more action to protect election workers. Do you think that that's going to be a constructive enough step?
I think it is a constructive step. It is obviously not enough of a step. What will be enough of a step is when DOJ follows up. I mean, those Senate Democrats are among the most sober-minded, smartest Democrats on these issues, led by Senator Amy Klobuchar, the chair of the Senate Rules Committee, Dick Durbin, one of the most high-ranking Democrats in the United States Senate, and someone who is very sober-minded about these things, were on that letter. So I hope and expect that Merrick Garland will hear this and take them up on what they suggest.
Well, I've said this before and I'll say it again. You have been an absolute leader on beating the drum about the dangers posed by these poll watchers and other election suppression efforts by Republicans. So we will continue to hammer away at this stuff, because when it inevitably happens and these people come forward in an effort to try and misinform Americans about what's happening in November, I think that it's important that we're already armed with the knowledge that what they're doing is a deliberate strategy of dysfunction here. So to for those watching to support the work that Marc does and to read more about this stuff, please sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the free news outlet that he founded to focus on everything voting in elections. You will learn more about poll watchers along with a raft of other election challenges that are happening right now, which is especially important. And again, if you want to grab my new book, Shameless, I'll put the link right here on the screen for that as well.
Buy the book. It's a great book. I'm telling you, buy it. You'll enjoy it.
I'm Brian Teller Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.